A near ubiquitous bumper sticker in Israel reads Shmor Merchak, keep your distance. Tailgating at any speed is practically a national road sport in Israel. Now, given our current social distancing, I thought that those words on a t-shirt, front and back, would be a winner. Our Israeli daughter Chana brought me down to earth. No one is going anywhere, Abba, so who would see it? Well, collectively, I feel that we are going somewhere, though no one is sure just where that is or how we get there safely. We're not the first to deal with contagion by isolating or distancing. This week's Torah reading, tazria-metzora, describes how, absent antibiotics, the ancient Israelites used observation and quarantine to deal with various physical and spiritual maladies, and with the ritual impurity, tum'ah, that resulted from them. Tum'ah could be caused by contact with or proximity to a corpse, by certain skin ailments or bodily emissions, even by immoral behavior. Whatever the source, the presence of tum'ah in the Israelite encampment and later in the land of Israel could drive out God's presence mitocham, from their midst. Tum'ah could also cause the land itself to expel the Israelites, sending them into exile. Persons rendered impure might undergo physical inspection by Kohanim, priests, whose diagnosis, referencing the descriptions in Torah, could lead to isolation and observation. Depending on circumstances, tum'ah could be contagious, even though it was invisible and intangible. Imagine having no fever, no cough, no aches or pains, yet being tainted, impure. Imagine that some kind of dermatological affection could lead to your being quarantined outside the community for a week or more, perhaps indefinitely. It may be easier for us now to imagine those things, threatened by something we cannot see or feel until it's too late. We isolate, and we consider ourselves fortunate that we can do so in relative comfort. And when we go out, we follow the injunctions to wear masks and to keep our distance. And when someone gets too close to us, whether masked or not, we can be made to feel uncomfortable. Tum'ah could affect the land on which the Israelites lived. For the most part, we eschew viewing the pandemic as having a spiritual cause or being the result of moral failings. We would benefit, I feel, though, if we take an ecological and global view. Even without seeing selfishness and inattention as the source of this coronavirus, we should still be responsible for our responses to it. The initial course of the pandemic was through developed countries, areas of the world with enough access to water that we could wash often for 20 seconds at a time, and with, for many at least, the ability to isolate and distance. Vast populations live where there is neither enough water nor enough space, much less the medical resources required to test for or treat COVID-19. For too long now, we have been abusing our living planet. We've been rendering impure, through pollution and exploitation, great areas of land and water. We've been mortgaging our future and that of our children and grandchildren for short-term comfort and gain. We are disturbingly self-centered, and we lack leaders to encourage us, to inspire us to be otherwise. Are we really so eager to live in a national gated community with little regard for many who live within, and even less regard for those who live without? I believe that we are dangerously close to expelling ourselves due to self-inflicted tum'ah from this astonishingly promising, bountiful dwelling. Many are writing and talking about how the virus is, quote, changing everything, that we will never be the same after this experience. I'm not so sure. I think we will revert quickly to over-consuming, to unnecessary polluting, to prioritizing profit, to seeking the cheapest everything no matter the cost of production. How long before the smog of commuters' cars again obliterates the natural vistas that have so recently become visible again? Will we ensure that all school-age children have access to the technology and training that will help them succeed and benefit society? I think we've been alerted to the costs of our actions and our inaction. Nothing is cheap. Not poverty-level wages for what had been considered menial labor, not the ecological consequences of inexpensive oil and gas, not the relatively low price of meat, not inadequate health care or education. One way or another, we pay a price for it all. It should concern us that so many people desperate to be working again will forego what we should now admit are basic needs: fair wages, health care, education. Basic needs that must be available to all. I hope that we as a society, as united states, not as competitive entities, might exit this pandemic with heightened sensitivities to these and other issues of fairness and generosity, with a determination to act, to advocate, to vote, to volunteer, to donate, perhaps even to do with a little less, so that many who need can have a little more. It may be that too many of us will have learned a different lesson from this virus, that shmor merchak, keeping your distance, means that we should distance ourselves from others, let them fend for themselves. For the short term, would that this crisis teaches us the value of maintaining distance when so advised by scientific or medical authorities. For the long term, would that we grow ever mindful of bridging the distances that have grown between the segments of our citizenry, so that we may act in common cause to lift us all. Shabbat Shalom.